StartupCincy Week. For the next 2 hours, I'll be your guide. My name is Mark Wood, and I lead FinTech Frontier for Centrifuge. For those who are new to Centrifuge, we're a nonprofit located here in Cincinnati, backed by public entities, as well as large corporations, with the expressed mission to help tech-based startups win in Cincinnati. FinTech Frontier is our effort to focus resources around our fin and insurtech entrepreneurs here in the city. But more on that later. We've got quite a full agenda, so let's go ahead and get started. To kick off our afternoon session of FinTech, we're going to start by taking a deep dive into a story about how a Cincinnati Big Co partnered with an early stage insurtech and what happened afterwards. But I can talk to you all day about why this is a great place to build a FinTech. It just sounds a whole lot better when it comes from the founders themselves. So with that, we have 4 gentlemen joining me here on stage, and they're going to take you through this story. To my direct left is Matt Green, AVP of Strategic VC for Western Southern Financial Group. To his left is Ben Foch, VP of Digital Strategy for Western Southern Financial Group. Working the way down the stage here, David McFarland, who is the co-founder and CEO of Coterie Insurance. And on the far end is Kevin Mackey, the co-founder and COO of Coterie Insurance. So with that, David, I'll let you take it from here.
All right, thanks. What we thought we'd do is start off a little bit and give a little background on the founding story of Coterie. I'm not from Cincinnati, and I don't understand Skyline Chili, but it's something that I'm at least becoming accustomed to. Before Coterie, I helped start a personal lines insurtech called ClearCover, and I didn't really know anyone at all in Cincinnati except one person, and I came here, was really evaluating various cities on where to start Coterie, and I was fairly warmly received. Turns out that Midwesterners are very nice and open with their calendars if you invite them with coffee. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. And when I got here and we were starting up, and for those who don't know, we do commercial insurance. We really focus on small commercial and delivering insurance where it's relevant to the end consumer and using technology to do that. But when I was here and kind of starting off, not knowing anyone, we received really well by the startup community, and this included some of the big co's. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ben, and he can highlight how Western and Southern found Coterie.
Thanks, David. So I think it was around the end of summer 2018, if my memory serves me, there was an article about an entrepreneur coming to Cincinnati to start an insurtech. As soon as I saw that line, I said, well, this is exactly why we built a strategic venture capital unit out of Western Southern Financial Group, which Matt will tell you a little bit about in a moment. That was incredibly interesting. I start reading through the article, and it says embedded insurance. Well, that was something we were very focused on. It starts talking about gig economy and potentially some opportunities there, as well as serving small businesses. All 3 of those were 3 of maybe the top 10 things we were targeting as strategic investors. So I reached out, and it turns out David was quite open with his calendar as well. So we met a couple of times. We started going through deep spreadsheets. David has an actuarial background. I have a bit of an engineering background. So we're geeking out on spreadsheets, then have a chance to meet some more of his team with Kevin. I think we grabbed coffee, and with Tim Metzner, and kept liking their team more and more. Had a few members of our executive team get to know the Coterie team, understand the business model. We like the business model. We like the opportunity. But ultimately, when you're investing at the seed stage, you're investing in entrepreneurs, and we couldn't be happier and prouder to invest behind David, Kevin, Tim, and the Coterie team.
And likewise, granted, when you're at the seed stage, you're kind of like, whoever will give me money, please. But our philosophy has always been from the beginning, culture first, and we overinvest in culture. Maybe we appropriately invest in culture, but this means our investors too, and we've been really fortunate to be able to have investors who are consistent with our vision, both in terms of where we want to take the business as well as how we develop the culture. Anything?
Sure. Hello. This is kind of weird to not have an audience here, and we're prompting ourselves, but just a couple of comments from me on that. Having been a multiple-time startup founder, culture is the most important thing that we can give to our teammates, and it usually is the intangible factor that is going to either allow for us to succeed or not. And so just kind of coming back to the founding story, when David and I met, and him not knowing anyone from the city of Cincinnati, our first 45 minutes, we're not talking about Coterie. And I'd seen his spreadsheet. It was 94 tabs. I'm not kidding. It was the longest and most detailed spreadsheet I've ever seen. But we didn't get into that. We talked about business philosophies. And I do remember even a discussion specifically on how we felt about marketing spend, when to have marketing spend, how to even view ROI. These were not things that we were talking about specific to Coterie. These were things that we were talking about from a business perspective. So being able to align around that from the very origins of the company, and then having Tim, who inherently, I think, got what we were after anyway, it made an excellent founding foundation upon which we've continued to build, and then having great investors and support from the community, and everybody else has been along with it. So with that, I don't know, I'll turn it back over to the Western and Southern folks so you guys can talk about culture.
Yeah, and maybe Matt will speak a little bit about the culture of the strategic venture capital group he leads, and what that is, and then maybe you guys can step back and describe Coterie and small business insurance, because I think that might be a new space for a number of folks.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So this relationship and investment we've had with Coterie has been a huge success for Western and Southern, and also with our relationship and investment in Centrifuge. These are good relationships that can really help the city of Cincinnati and really help the fintech community, so we can get more startups and see more success stories here in the Cincinnati area. So just a background on Western and Southern Strategic Venture Capital, that Ben did a tremendous job of help getting started at Western and Southern. So really a few years ago, 2016, 2017 timeframe, Ben and our leadership team thought it'd be a good idea to kind of track and monitor these early stage insurtech companies, because this can be as a defense mechanism for large insurance companies such as Western and Southern to really get to know these organizations and invest and partner with them. So Western and Southern really took initially a very much, I would describe as a crawl, walk, run approach, and that we started off our strategic venture capital initiative by investing in funds. And as we invested in these funds, we got to know the insurtech community. We got to know and talk with more startups such as Coterie, and just really build our corporation's confidence in working with the startup community. So as we got to know and got comfortable with investments in startups, we started talking with more and more, doing more direct investments, finding successful companies such as Coterie, and we really began to ramp up our strategic venture capital initiative, and has really turned in to a good department for our organization, and helps us defend ourselves going forward in the future. So we'd probably do 4 to 5 direct investments on an annual basis. We'll typically target early stage companies. I would describe it as seed to Series A is the investments we work best with. We have some flexibility in there. We're not as stringent as I would describe as a typical VC fund LPA mandate, but it does give us some flexibility. And one thing I want to emphasize, any company that is in the fintech space within the Cincinnati community, I would encourage you to reach out to us, because this has been a great relationship from both just a commercial perspective as well as an investment return perspective for our company. So I would encourage everyone to do so. I'll go ahead and hand it off to you guys if you guys want to talk more about Coterie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. Cincinnati is, I don't want to say unique. I don't know every city. But Cincinnati is at least special in that the big co's here seem to be getting behind the startup community pretty well. I know Great American, Western Southern, and many others are putting a lot of effort into getting into that. And we felt it, and we felt it directly from a number of big companies here, and obviously with your support. In general, for those who don't know, we do not cater to big companies. Coterie caters to the smaller end of small commercial. We like to support the solopreneur, whatever you want to call that. Solopreneur, that's a thing. Gig economy, small businesses, those types of players. Because, I mean, really, like, the small commercial space is the backbone of this country. And candidly, the P&C commercial insurance, I won't talk about life insurance, but P&C commercial insurance, it doesn't do a great job at making efficiency a thing in their life. And this may sound shocking to people who aren't in insurance, or at least to people who are in insurance. No one really cares about insurance, right? Like, I'm an actuary, and you can't bother me to, like, go shop for car insurance on a Saturday. It's not going to happen. And we take that thesis and we say, all right, since people don't actually care about insurance, how can we make this much easier for them in their life? And we do that by meeting them in the places where it's relevant to them, so that they can knock off that checkbox during the course of their life, rather than having to do this disparate activity that is filling out tons of forms for commercial insurance. And we do this not by disintermediating anyone, not by kicking out agents or brokers or any other distribution partners. We do this by empowering them. We actually go get the information for them so that agents, brokers, those who are selling the insurance can focus on what they're good at, namely like relationships and coverage recommendations, rather than on filling out a bunch of data and admin work, all that. We handle that behind the scenes. So that's kind of the special thing that we do at Coterie, and thankfully it's been working pretty well. We've we've had some good success this year, and we hope to continue to grow it in the coming years.
Just to add a couple more points to that, especially because my perspective on this, I'm not an insurance person by background. I'm a startup person. I'm founder. I'm entrepreneur. So I was the person that was buying these insurance policies. And so maybe many in the audience can understand and empathize with this. Sometimes you don't know what your projections are going to be. If you're asked for 4 or 5 years out and you're like, I don't know, maybe it's going to be this or maybe it's going to be that, that can impact your insurance policies and what you're protecting yourself for. So if we're able to digitize and use the information that on an itemized basis is going into your revenues, into your accounting books, so we can say this is what our revenues are, this is what our expenses are, not only can we eliminate that hassle that David was just talking about, but we can actually have more accurate pricing. And that is our goal. Our goal is not to be the lowest cost price. It is actually to be the most accurate price, because with accuracy comes education. And that's what we find that a lot of small business owners don't really understand is, what have I just bought? What am I able to do with this? And so by using a digital first and a data first orientation, and us being these owners ourselves, we can really deeply understand what we're trying to provide for not only our policyholders, but then the stat is still 90+% of these small business owners are still buying their policies through insurance agents. So we have to understand what the buying process is for all of those that are involved, and then build products accordingly. And so it's been a really awesome exercise to kind of help solve, for me, my own problems, but more importantly, to hear directly from our small business owners and our agents, because our agents are small business customers too. They have the same problems as our small business owners, just in a specific industry. So being able to solve all those problems has been really exciting.
If I could maybe call out a little band modesty on stage. So first, I think David said doing reasonably well. I think there was a press release earlier this week around a $50 million fundraise, which is fantastic. And so would love to hear a little bit about that, but then how you think about scaling culture, because you talked to that. And before that, just flag, there's a little additional modesty on stage. Matt talking about leading strategic venture capital and continuing on and accelerating. He talked about crawl, walk, run. And now the pace that Western and Southern's do in strategic venture capital, it far exceeds what was going on when I was leading it a few years ago. And I think it's a testament to Matt coming in and taking over the reins there. With that, what's going on with the fundraise and scaling?
So we're super excited to bring in the funds. Yeah, it was a $50 million raise. We had the press release go out on Tuesday. Obviously, the bulk of the credit goes to the team, right? The team has put in so much blood, sweat, and tears to make this work, to get the growth rates and to attract the investors. So big shout out to them. As far as what we plan to do with it, obviously, right, like continue to grow the business, make sure we can maximize return for our shareholders. But our core belief in that is like we have to have that team in order to execute on the vision. And so investing in culture, investing in the things that matter in terms of hiring, developing, and the hard thing, firing, right, when it doesn't work out. But really, again, investing heavily in coaching our teammates, making sure that we're able to understand what they want to do with their life and how that aligns with Coterie, and sometimes maybe it doesn't. And we have those conversations with our team. We coach them. We have a program called Core Coaching that we invest heavily into. Everyone's core coached, and that foundation of empathizing with your people and helping align their interests and their ambitions with where the company's going, and maybe sometimes where it may diverge, but understanding that beforehand really helps us build a company that is consistent with our core values of integrity, humility, passion, and intelligence.
The way that I would describe it a little bit is we're going to get big, but we still want to feel small. And so I'm glad that David brought up core coaching, because core coaching, it is a program, as he had mentioned, that's designed for the person and the professional, but it also is a means of communication. If our leaders are so understanding what our strategy is, and that is consistent, it means that we can pass that feeling along to each one of our employees. And that, from a management perspective, is what we want to build. In the past couple of years, really in the past year, we've doubled in size, actually a couple of times, which is no small feat when you're doing all of this remotely. And so all of the learnings that we've had from a remote company, a small company, we're actually putting those things into practice. And we, as the initial leaders of the company, are able to say, I've done this before. I understand what you're doing. And that degree of empathy actually results, I think, in good performance and people that choose to stay. Right now, it is an environment where talented people have options. And when they make that choice to stay and do the work every day, hard work, there's so much value in that. And we want to reward our team for that.
So you guys just mentioned something I think it'd be great for the audience to hear from a startup perspective, and that's the amount of talent that exists in the Cincinnati community today. So I think one of the things that Cincinnati is a much more successful, smaller city in terms of the amount of talent and successful startups that exist here. And I would say we're a little underrated compared to some of the larger cities, even 90 miles up the road in Columbus. But I would love to hear your perspective on just your guys' ability to find good, strong talent from a recruiting perspective here in our local community.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this has to do with the concept of ecosystems, right? And very mature ecosystems that have had a lot of startup success get to, you end up benefiting from the talent that has gone through there. They've grown up, they've seen how to scale a company from 0 to thousands of people, and then an exit scenario happens and they get to go through again, and this happens over and over again, creates more and more talent, right? The most mature ecosystem in the country, San Francisco, right? Clearly, Silicon Valley. However, now that time has gone on, we've found more ecosystems starting to take place. Some are more mature than others. Columbus, Cincinnati, those types of places. And I think Cincinnati is at a really interesting point right now. We've had a number of startups that have come through. Some have succeeded, some have failed. But it's like tilling the soil, right? It's breaking things up, and it's making it a really fertile place to where if you do have a startup, you can attract talent who has either gone through a successful startup or maybe has gone through failures, and you can learn from that. So yes, it was one of the reasons why I was bullish on coming to Cincinnati to start here.
There was one point where in one of your slide decks, I'm going to see how well you remember your slide decks from like Seed or Seed Plus, where you had a slide and it said the number of founders that we had and the number of collective years of experience. Do you remember what the answers were?
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends, because like we were hiring some people, so I kept having to update it. I think we had 6 previous founders, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that was right. So a couple of shout outs. Jane Smith, who was one of our earliest employees, she had been involved in the local ecosystem. She went through the Ocean Accelerator with her brother John. She was able to join us as a very early employee. She had been the chief operating officer at that company. We've had Mike Hillenmeyer, who's had multiple founder experiences, and many others who I'm not going to be able to remember now. But the whole point being, we were able to attract these people who, again, made that choice. We were never going to be able to offer them what they could have made in the open market. And that's actually what they wanted. They wanted the experience. They wanted to do more. And those are the types of people that we found in spades here in the city of Cincinnati. And that's why we got started here.
If I don't mean to hog the questions for you guys, but I'd be very curious if you guys could share a little bit more about your story from a raising capital perspective. Like, obviously, we were investors in Coterie, and that's worked out pretty successful for us. But just your ability to kind of navigate the capital resourcefulness here in maybe the local Cincinnati community. I know if you guys have raised a successful amount of capital from other locations. Would just love to hear kind of your story on how you guys have progressed on that front.
Yeah, my capital raising story is not very attractive at all. I mean, basically what I do is I just make a Excel list of 80 to 100 different companies, and then I bother all of them until they either tell me yes or no, and that's frankly it. But there's a lot of resources out there, and I think you just got to do the hard work, right? Like, there's no real secret to fundraising other than like occasionally like timing really works out for you, right? Like both in terms of internal timing, like your company's doing well, and external timing, meaning everyone is interested in InsurTech or whatever. Fortunately for us, that worked out really well this particular round. But shoot, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So it's still just going back to the, create a sheet of 100 investors who or who are interested in the space. Find the people who can connect you to the right people. By the way, big shout out to Sarah, Ben, many other people here in the Cincinnati space who have helped us get connected to those people. And then you just pitch. You pitch. And you know what? Like 99% of the time, they're going to say no because that's their job, right? Like your job is to find the reason that you should not invest, right? And that's okay. Like if you should not go into fundraising if you don't have a little bit of thickness to your skin, because you will be told no 99% of the time. And I'm literally saying this as we came off a $50 million fundraise, right? And I think that's the secret. It's not all like glamour and PR and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of hard work, both in terms of my pitching, but more so like the team behind us, like what they have done to make my job easier, right? So I can pitch something that's amazing. Like that credit goes to them.
These are going to be a little bit more tactical and probably chief operating officer-ish, which shouldn't surprise you at all. But here are a couple of things in the city of Cincinnati that helped us out. First and foremost, and this is going to demonstrate David's humility, but we're in an insurance town and we've got an insurance leader. That helped. That helped with angel fundraising tremendously, because we have a group of people, mostly, and this is going to be a very generic comment, but a lot of your angels are going to be, especially in a city like Cincinnati, former executives, folks that know deeply what the problems are. We didn't have to spend a lot of time convincing anyone about what we were trying to do. And that, to your point, Ben, is what initial investment is all about, is have you been able to prove and convince others that you deeply understand the problem in an industry and you're presenting a solution that is decades in the making. And that's what we were able to do successfully, but that was only for one round. Then you have other rounds that come out on top of it. So that's where you do have to use your team and the assets that are around you to be able to tell that compelling story, but most importantly, and this is the COO aspect of it, you have to be able to back it up. The first piece of this is convincing someone to say yes. The second piece of it, as Adam Newman well knows, is that you have to go through a diligence process and have people look at your company and be like, you know what, you're actually doing the things that you said that you're going to do. So for us, and this is Morgan Smith, major shout out, but to Morgan's consternation right now, our/my file storage system was based on me being the only person at the company initially and setting up our contracts the way that we were. In diligence, and this is what the most basic thing that I can communicate out to the audience is that when you go through diligence, investors want to see every document that your company has ever signed. And I'm not exaggerating. It's every single one. And so being able to set yourself up initially so that you don't have to go back through and course through your emails and see, is this the signed version or not? Like that actually helped tremendously in terms of the speed through which we were able to go through fundraising. Since we still have 7 minutes left, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story on how that mattered to us. Our Series A, we closed, I think it was literally 2 weeks before the school shut down for COVID. And so why I'm saying that is we had started that fundraise in like August of the year before. It was a fundraise that took a solid 8 months. And that was still with us having documents and everything in place. If we had not had that and we had a delay, which as everyone that has fundraised knows, if you're talking with lawyers and attorneys have questions, a 2-week delay could be nothing. I mean, that could be something based on a contract that you didn't even know about. For us to be able to have that and get that money was tremendously helpful for us. So just having precision, being able to kind of maneuver the things, using your assets to your advantage, all of these subtle things are really what matters to closing a fundraise fast and having the best partners that you can get.
Hey, and maybe if we could stay with you, Kevin, for folks listening and thinking about the Cincinnati ecosystem, so we walked in together, and immediately you're starting to say hi to everybody you know, and it's ridiculous. I feel like I know nobody. I know you've been around the block. You were at Centrifuge a little bit. What do you think are the keys to getting involved in the Cincinnati ecosystem and getting awareness of what all the opportunities are and networking?
Don't have any doubt about yourself, truly. I mean this, we're all everybody in this room is kind of in the same space, meaning we're all trying to do something big, we're all trying to benefit ourselves, we're all trying to do something that we're interested in. It doesn't really matter to me whether we've raised $50 million or we've raised $5 because we're all trying to do the same stuff. So I would say don't have any doubt about where you are and just begin to get involved and tell people what you are doing. only other people, as you educate them about your business, can help you. And so if you're kind of holding back from yourself, you're actually holding back from others. And so what I would say is just forget about all the other stuff, all the blustery PR things like we've talked about, and just talk to people passionately about what you're interested in.
I'll echo that. Also, inviting Ohioans to coffee really works well.
That does. That's right.
So I think we're coming up on our close. The only thing I would add here to those startups that are listening, that this has been a great relationship for both parties, but from a capital resource perspective, there is capital here in the local Cincinnati community that's willing to invest in the Cincinnati community. So I'd encourage you to use your resources that are available, like Centrifuge, like Western and Southern, like Coterie, who'd probably be willing to help anyone out with their story and provide their perspective and be of help to any startup with here in the local Cincinnati community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're here to build up the Cincinnati ecosystem in general, and reach out. There's a lot of startups out here who want to do something special, and happy to help them.
Same, and I've been given the task of wrapping us up, so I think that maybe we're in the wrap-up phase of this. So with that, Western, do you guys want to end with any, or Ben specifically, do you want to end with anything else? Otherwise, I think we're going to kick off to FinTech Frontier Pitch Competition.
Just echo that especially if you're in the FinTech landscape, but otherwise as well, if you're local and raising money, certainly reach out to Matt and others at Western and Southern.
All right, so with that, we are going to kick it back off to the FinTech Frontier. There's going to be a series of startups that are going to pitch for us, so that's super exciting. I will echo what David said. You can reach me anytime, Kevin at CoterieInsurance.com. We are seriously passionate about building up the local ecosystem, local talent. If you're ever up in the Blue Ash area, we have plenty of space on most days of the week. So truly, feel free to get in touch. Happy to mentor anyone that we need. Otherwise, Centrifuge crew, it is off to our FinTech Frontier commercial.
A thriving startup community is important for Cincinnati because Cincinnati has always been a driving force for innovation throughout our history. Cincinnati, again, is ripe to be that engine to help drive innovation in this ecosystem. We have great universities, we have great companies to all fuel that energy, and so when that technology comes about and the new innovation comes about, you can feed those directly into the large corporations that touch the world every single day.
Having a thriving startup community in Cincinnati is critical for our long-term economic vitality. As an individual and a working mother who moved here after almost 2 decades living and working in Manhattan, I found myself in Cincinnati. And you might ask why. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this place. First, it's the heartbeat of the nation. When you come to a community like Cincinnati and the greater Cincinnati region, what you find is everyone is willing to help. And it's why I brought my family here. It's why I moved my career here. USA Today ranked us as one of the top places for millennials to live. The second year I moved here from New York City, the New York Times had us in the top 10 list of the 52 places to visit in the year.
We have a half a dozen Fortune 500 companies, and 3 of those are financial services and insurance. You've got companies like Procter & Gamble and Kroger, who are at the epicenter of retailing, branding, and customer understanding. And companies like these, they're going to be your customers, your investors, your mentors.
So customers, talent, and money are the 3 things that a startup needs. And you'll find all of those here in Greater Cincinnati. So in this instance, if you want to talk about FinTech, we've got a concentration of InsurTech and FinTech here, from Western Southern, Cincinnati Financial, Fifth Third Bank, US Bank, PNC. They all have a significant presence here in the Greater Cincinnati region.
A lot of companies these days do lean on startups. And specifically within FinTech, there's a big trend for financial services companies to lean heavily on partnerships with FinTechs. And a good startup ecosystem of domain expertise, technical expertise, kind of pushing the boundaries into what's new, is ultimately the future wave of how big corporations are going to continue to evolve and invest into new technology and new ecosystems. The corporations that are headquartered here, Fortune 500 kind of focus, they bring a lot of talent into the city and they stay here.
Centrifuge is a startup catalyst that combines services for startups, a syndicated fund of funds of about $115 million in invested capital, and services for big companies that help them think and act like a startup. I'm a California native. In fact, I went to school in the Silicon Valley. I decided to locate my company in Cincinnati because the advantages are absolutely tremendous. Cost of living, supportive ecosystem, access to talent, access to big companies that are hungry to do pilots.
There's no better place to invest in the United States than in the Midwest right now.
We are looking for great startups that want to be part of our community, about building our region, but also about building our business.
So I would recommend any entrepreneur that wants to be able to start a business in a place that isn't going to break your bank and also has a tremendous ecosystem around it and can give you your work-life balance. Cincinnati is definitely the place for you to consider.
Aspiring fin and SureTech entrepreneurs out there, come to Cincinnati. We'll welcome you with open arms, and we'll do everything we can to help you ramp up really, really fast.
Welcome back. For those of you who have been with us, I want to express our gratitude to both Coterie and Western Southern, who are pillars of the FinTech ecosystem here in Cincinnati. They embody the partnerships and relationships that can develop when big co's open their doors and welcome startups in. For those who are just joining us, my name is Mark Wood, and I help lead FinTech Frontier with our wonderful partners. FinTech Frontier is a collaborative effort between Western Southern Financial Group, Fifth Third Bank, Jobs Ohio, and Centrifuge to accelerate financial services innovation in our region. This is our second annual pitch competition, and as is required by any good marketer, I can now confirm that we are back, we're bigger, and we're better than ever. FinTech Frontier will be giving away $75,000 in cash prizes today to 3 lucky winners. In September, we put out our call for applications, searching nationwide for the best and brightest new ideas in FinTech. We searched through tech hotspots across the country before working our way through the interior. After reviewing the applicants, we narrowed the field down to 10 startups, and today, you'll get to hear directly from them. This will be a fast-paced, 5-minute pitches followed by live Q&A with our judges who are here on stage. To help us select our winners, let's go ahead and introduce those judges. George Cook is the co-founder and CEO of Honeycomb Credit. George was also victorious in the inaugural FinTech Frontier Pitch Competition last year, so we're thrilled to have him back. Seated to his left is Mike Crawford, Vice President of Digital for Fifth Third Bank. Mary Beth Ray, President and CEO of Fort Washington Investment Advisors, the investment subsidiary for Western Southern Financial Group. And Ron Rock, the Senior Director of InsurTech for Jobs Ohio. But they are not the only ones deciding the outcome of today's competition. Following the final pitch, you will see a note in the chat of your stream telling you where to go to vote for your favorite pitch of the afternoon. This poll will be open for 5 minutes, so it's imperative that you are paying attention right when we finish to get your vote casted. All right, I'd say that's enough about the logistics, so let's get to the reason you're all here. The agenda's packed, startups are ready, and we've got a lot of money to give away. So, without further ado, let's move into the first pitch of the afternoon. We'll begin with Rent.
Hello, my name is Nathan Slapter, co-founder of Rent. We believe everyone should have inclusive access to stable housing. The problem that exists is renters, according to Urban Institute, have been disproportionately negatively impacted by the pandemic. Millions are credit stale or credit invisible. If they have a credit score at all, it's low. That means fragility. And landlords are not the bad guys here in this equation. Their biggest problem is identifying and retaining their best tenants, but how do you do so? First, when the existing systems have inherent bias, your conversion's lacking, you're sitting on moratoriums, bad debt, potential evictions, there's overall instability in your community. We solve this problem, both the tenant and the landlord problem. We give landlords a toolkit, advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, data to identify, assess, and segment risk inclusively. This is instant lease performance confidence top of funnel with a soft credit pool. This improves bad debt, reduces evictions, and so on. And also drives overall stability. We surface the very elements that a landlord operator needs to understand in order to stabilize their environment. And that data that a renter needs to gain entree to the house that they want, verification of income, identity, assets, employment, We take direct from the source, simplifying, automating that process. And that's the very data set that a renter needs to gain financial inclusion. We report on-time rent payments to credit bureaus. What this does is this reinforces the very elements that a landlord wants to see in their environment, on-time rent payments. And it's delivered straightforward through a dashboard or API integration or software that helps landlords really enhance their credit policy. This is inclusive, profitable leasing and fully defensible. We're OCC, CFPB compliant, and this product has delivered value and underwritten billions of dollars in the financial services sector, and we've enhanced it for rent. And no one else is doing this. You know, if you look across the landscape, most companies focus on screening. Obvious, it's out there, but they have the inherent bias of FICO. And because of that, they overlook hordes of quality, responsible tenants. Other companies do great things. They help build credit history, but they fail to identify that renter and persist with them along the path, or help that renter gain access to the house in the first place. We do both and create revenue for our operators. And it's a huge market out there. 37% of Americans rent. They move every 2 years. On average, 3 applications per rental. So millions and millions of applications, a $4.5 billion market opportunity. We're approaching that market with B2B relationships, engaging channel partners as well. For us, we work with the attainable housing with a lot of workforce housing. This would be the ALICE, asset limited income constrained population. The population is living paycheck to paycheck, but we're also serving market rate and student housing. Typically dealing with operators who have a portfolio of 350 units or more. We're driving pilots right now. We have LOIs that represent quite a bit of upside. And we improve acceptance rates by 10+%. We reduce eviction. We prove inclusion mandates. So landlords pay us. But because we sit at that data layer, we take advantage of other revenue streams as we scale. Now we're laser focused on inclusive criteria expansion. This is the most prescriptive and predictive understanding of credit risk and fragility in the market. And so we're really focused on that, and we've already driven some incredible efficacy over the last few months. I'm an executor, so I've surrounded myself with executors and marketing and operations. Stacy and Jay are co-founders. Stacy is our COO, Jay's enterprise entrepreneur in residence at UCSD. We also have 2 incredible technologists, Marty and Neil. Neil's a former CTO of HP Europe, has 10 patents. And what ties us together is this mission to provide inclusive, stable communities. Stakeholders benefit. Renters gain access to credit, access to capital, access to the home. Landlords benefit by improving retention, reducing evictions, and driving on-time payments. My name is Nathan Slapter. Connect with me if you are an operator or a landlord or even a strategic. Take a picture. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. And we have Nathan Slapter joining us virtually. He is the founder, as you heard, founder and CEO. So judges, I will let you take it away with questions.
I guess kind of a quick question. You said 37% are renters. There's obviously going to be a sweet spot in there. What would you see your sweet spot in that 37%?
Yeah, thank you. We really look at the workforce housing. This would be often the asset limited, income constrained population, the ALICE population, right around 35 million people.
Give us a minute here while we work out some technical.
Yeah, just working out the volume here.
Can you hear me? Test 1, 2.
Ron, let's go ahead and re-ask the question.
Yeah, so the question again was the 37% of renters, there's a sweet spot in there somewhere because not all renters are in a bad spot to fixed credit. So I was just wondering what your sweet spot is.
That's frustrating. Can you hear me now? Test 1, 2.
Nathan, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Thank you for your patience. We provide an incredible opportunity to uncover ability and willingness to repay. And so this serves every market, but really specifically, it's the ALICE population, the asset limited, income constrained, the ones that may have an incomplete or not comprehensive credit record, and then the attainable housing, right around 50 million or so Americans.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Yes, another question for you. Far in terms of renters who have in fact defaulted.
You asked renters that have been bank defaulted?
On their rent. I mean, what your experience has been?
Yeah, and so we look at liens, judgments, other ways to uncover risk for landlords. And oftentimes there's been maybe a bad experience, like someone has not paid a credit card, but they've paid their rent. However, rent is typically unreported to credit bureaus. So there's a blight on the record, but on the same note, they've demonstrated virtue in meeting other obligations. And so we surface those insights rather than screening for the bad. We actually identify the performance indicators of good.
Any other questions? All right. Nathan, thank you for staying with us through the technical difficulties. We appreciate it. Thank you for your pitch. And let's move into our next contestant of the day. So second up is Dorio from Bloomington, Indiana.
Hi, Centrifuge and FinTech Frontier team and everyone at the audience today. My name is Eugen, one of the co-founders at Dorio. Dorio is on the mission to unlock private offerings for the Robinhood generation, and this is the problem we're trying to solve. Startup investing generates extraordinary wealth to those who can bear the risk. And people with more time can generally bear more risks. Ironically, however, people who can legally invest in startups are not the ones with the most time. And actually, it works the other way around. People with more time, the most time, are blocked out almost completely out from startup investing because accredited investor rule determines the status based on financial means test. Fortunately, a 2020 regulatory shift opens the possibility for retail investors to get accreditation status via education path. And I'm very excited to announce that Dorio is the first company to apply and submit the application to get approval from SEC to accredit investors. Fantasy Startup, our first product, has just launched on App Store and both Google Play for you to download. This product has been developed for 3 years, going through rigorous private testings to verify its educational effectiveness and efficiencies to train and certify for financial sophistication in private investing. So when you download and open our app, you will be able to invest in new opportunities every day, up until 50 companies, and make 150 micro quizzes and lessons, and track your portfolios along the way. And upon successful completion, you will be able to get a certification and thus be able to advance yourself into accredited investor upon SEC approval. Today, Dorio is favorably positioned to execute a clear and infinitely scalable blue ocean strategy, capturing more than 100 million target market that includes 70 million millennials and 72 million of Gen Z. They have a very strong interest in building and creating wealth and adding alternative assets into their portfolio, which brings immense opportunity for Dorio. We're offering free 12-month certification to lock in these users, but we're also offering an ongoing education and recertification path for those interested upon SEC requirements. But this is only the beginning. Beyond SEC certification, we are essentially creating a trusted, financially certified community of investors that places Dorio in a favorable position to help our members and clients discover and add alternative assets to their portfolios. And this concept has been already been proved by multiple different private beta testing that we have been conducting for several years. But I want to share the most recent results, where we conducted a private beta testing last August with entire class of freshmen at IU Kelley Business School. Based on the 1,100 responses, you can see almost everyone showed some interest in making micro startup investments in real companies. This indicates an immense opportunity not just for our new class of young investors, but also entrepreneurs and current investors and VCs. Thank you for the opportunity for pitching at the competition and sharing what we've accomplished so far as a company, as well as where we're heading to now. I'll open up the floor to any questions you have.
All right, thank you. And joining us live from Bloomington, Indiana is co-founder and director of R&D, Eugen. Judges, take it away.
Yeah, so good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Question for you, how do you plan to distribute this?
But then we also have
Hi, Eugen.
Hi.
When you think about helping people build wealth, how do you ensure that the investments that people can make through your platform are good ones and that you're not getting only the rejects that the big funds won't put money into?
But also how to really analyze or measure and mitigate the risks associated with that startups, because a lot of people, they tend to not understand, a lot of people understand what debt means, like what it means to your wealth and your financial status, but a lot of people don't really understand what it means to have equity in their portfolio. That is why a lot of people, there's a lot of hype around meme stocks that's not really associated building the real wealth that is going together with the innovation that will power our future.
Awesome.
Hi.
I think we have time for one more question.
Awesome. I'm curious, how do you plan to monetize this?
Yes, so our app that is going directly to the consumer is a freemium model. So everyone can play the app for free, but they can purchase in-app purchase options like accelerating the course of the app, or they can purchase additional capital to use in the app when they invest in new opportunities within the app. So there are premium options that generates revenue. And then for certification, that is awarded for people who finishes the course successfully. We provide the first 12-month for free, but then it is a recurring annual revenue for us, which is also a requirement by SEC. And then for the other distribution channel that is going through the university, then it's a one-time payment, or if we lock in the annual contract, it would also be an annual recurring revenue.
All right. Thank you, Eugen. Thank you, Dorio. We appreciate you joining us here today. We're going to go ahead to the next startup, which is Sigo Seguros, located in Austin, Texas.
Hi, I'm Nestor Solari, co-founder and CEO of Sigo Seguros. And let me tell you why we've been able to generate almost $150,000 in annual premiums written run rate in just our first 2 months. See, it all stems from the fact that market failures have created a price dislocation for immigrants and the working class when it comes to auto insurance. Now, what does that mean? That means that your traditional carriers, these familiar suspects on the screen here, focus on a very specific type of customer, right? They're very interested in what your credit score is, where'd you go to school, what do you do for work, what your immigration status is. Now, that works great for a specific segment of the population, but it doesn't work so well for most of the Latinx community. And what you have here is this redlining effect, whereby immigrants and working class customers, just because of the lack of data, such as a credit score or driving history, are forced into the worst options. And this not only creates this terrible experience, but also costs several hundreds of dollars extra for each customer. And so I realized early on that not everyone gets 15% in 15 minutes here. My aunt, who's worked at the same supermarket for 25 years and has never had a car accident, still struggles to get auto insurance. My cousin, who's the safest driver I've ever seen, a single mom, couldn't get insurance online because she had a foreign driver's license. And so that's why I founded Sigo, as an inclusive car insurance provider focused on affordability, accessibility, and removing bias. Sigo is the only insurance provider in the market that can digitally onboard a Spanish speaker without an agent interaction. Furthermore, what we did is we dissected this product and said, what are the things that cause otherwise good drivers to be forced into these bad options? Things like credit score, things like education, employment, immigration status. And so we pulled those out of your traditional rating models and instead introduced things like telematics through the first Spanish language telematics app in the US. And we give discounts for customers that opt in. We give discounts for customers that come through affiliates. And what we've done with our end-to-end onboarding is now we have a much more clean and comprehensive data collection process on our customer when compared to our existing competition. And we've seen great success so far, 50% month-over-month growth in our written premiums after launching in August. More interesting is the quality of the customer we're getting. We're getting 100% of customers getting 6-month policies. We're getting older millennials who are safer drivers, but still in their prime earning years for a long customer lifetime. And most interestingly is we're getting almost half of our customers that are buying coverage beyond just your state minimum limits, which not only suggests a customer that is higher quality, lower risk, but a higher ticket for Sigo and a better retention profile. And just to give you a sense, this compares to about 5 or 10% of the portfolio for most of our competitors. More exciting than the characteristics of our customers is actual performance in our agency testing. So in 2019, we launched an agency test where we sold a couple $100,000 of premiums. And what we saw is our customers retained significantly better. We expected an average customer lifetime of over 6 years. That compares to less than a year with our competitors. Most non-standard carriers have a 3 to 10 month customer lifetime. And so even though this may sound niche, right, we're talking about our specific Latino community for auto insurance, it's a huge market. We're talking $30 billion, and that's only if we focus on Spanish dominant customers. And this is a market that's growing fast, over 1 million drivers per year. And this growth is probably what attracted a lot of our partners to come knocking on our door. We've had successful online marketing campaigns, but we're also developing partnerships to distribute both at the local and national level eventually. And our partners are excited because they see this antiquated legacy industry that has done a good job covering their own specific pockets, but hasn't been prepared for the demographic shift that's occurred in our country, right? The growth of the Latino population, which has created this white space right here in the middle where Sigo can acquire the best customers that are forced into the bad options because of circumstance, the best foreign licensed drivers, the best drivers without a credit score. And we know this because we've lived it. We've seen the experiences firsthand. We're children of immigrants. My co-founder Julio is an immigrant. We're not only a team that can build a product in Spanish, but we can build an experience that's in culture for our customer. And our vision is to be the insurance provider for everyone in our community, regardless of their insurance needs. We start with auto, we add homeowners and renters and life insurance eventually. But auto is really that wedge in here while we look towards 2030, when most new home buyers in the US will be Latino. I look forward to any questions from the judges, and please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the video. And we have with us here live from Austin, Nestor Solari. So judges, I'll let you take it away with questions.
Hi, Nestor. Welcome. Quick question on the Venn diagram that you had there. Some of the big names on the, what would it be, on the right, what's keeping them from leaking into your space?
Absolutely. I think there's a handful of things, right? I think starting with maybe the easier is the technology stack, right? Antiquated technology, paper-based, that's really hard to untangle for them with their existing data and existing policies. Second, so that's the first thing. Second of all, I think it's cultural, right? Latinos are the most underrepresented group among insurance executives. And so it's very hard to solve an invisible problem, right? You don't know anyone in your community that has this issue. You probably don't know many people that only speak Spanish, right? And so I think that's our second key advantage, at least in not only in the nuance with which we build the product, but in our marketing and our outreach to our community.
Hey, Nestor. When you think about, you've had some great growth in the last 2 months. Insurance is a bit of a long game, right? How much runway do you need before you feel confident in some of the metrics that you're seeing and the key drivers of your outcomes?
Great question. So there's two stages to this, right? One, we build a product that's particularly attractive for our target customer, that doesn't surcharge for foreign ID, that's available in Spanish. And then once we collect that data, we take step two and build the product with that data, right? That more accurately underwrites and rates them. What we think we need to get to that second place is 2,000 to 3,000 policies. Really like 18 to 24 months track record for us to take a look at that, take a look at claims and loss data, and then come back and update it. Ultimately, it's a negotiation with the regulator as to when we have enough data. But that's kind of what the area we're looking at. And to give you a sense, we expect to be there within the next 12 to 18 months.
So what states are you registered in now to be able to do your pilots?
So currently, Texas is the only state where Sigo's insurance product is live. We're also running an agency in California, outside our business in Texas as well, and New Jersey.
When you think about one of the more successful recent insurers, Lemonade, how do you compare to them, and do you think they could more authentically come into your space?
I think the insurtechs may be better positioned given their modern technology stacks to build something here, but I think there's still a lot of familiarity and nuance that comes with selling specifically to this customer. A lot of specific tools. To give you an example, Latinos are more likely to change their address, more likely to buy and sell cars. That requires additional tools for you to build or to staff up to address. And so I think it's possible, but like a lot of the legacy insurers, a lot of these guys aren't moving without data. And that data doesn't exist in the market. We're the first ones collecting it.
Thank you, Nestor. We appreciate the time, and thank you for joining us all the way from Texas. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's move on to our next contestant today, Willow Estate Planning from Cincinnati.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Willow. Myself and my fellow co-founders, Allie and Clinton, all have childhood memories of being around our grandparents. Mine is walking through pastures, holding my grandmother's hand on a farm in Kentucky. Allie's is having breakfast with Grandma, eating a healthy Frosted Flakes and drinking Coca-Cola. Clinton vividly remembers playing hide and seek under a willow tree. As is life, all three of us lost our grandparents, and all of you have or will at some point too. In our cases, this loss tore our families apart, but it didn't have to. Is your family prepared? According to caring.com, probably not. So why is that? I haven't gotten around to it. I don't think I have enough assets to pass on, or I don't know how. Maybe it costs too much. But what's the real cost here? Your family's legacy. Willow is here to stop the excuses and give you peace of mind. We're creating an application with 6 features focusing on ease of use and clarity of intention during a difficult time, financial tracking and allocation of assets, physical asset wishes, health intentions, digital assets in today's world, funeral arrangements, and the ability to connect with a professional estate planner or legal representation. Upwards of $1 trillion a year is going to start changing hands as the baby boomers exit our lives. Willow is going to be there to help with that transition, specifically with the 64% of adults that do not have a will and the 60% of wealth transfers under $1 million. At Willow, we're building an application that removes the excuses, the first of its kind, drag and drop, point and shoot. Plan at your pace as an individual or with your family. What does your grandmother collect? Clinton's? She collected Hummels. Each grandchild has their favorite. Our application allows grandma to shoot a picture, then drag and drop straight to her family tree. It's that easy with any physical asset. Willow makes your intentions clear and easy to articulate. One touch on any tree branch removes all ambiguity, while also showing even distribution if that's your desire across the entire family tree, even digital assets. And as we all know, in today's world, everything is turning digital. The nearly impossible task of finding, gaining access, moving, deleting, or even selling is only going to get harder and more complicated without Willow helping you. And when it's all been planned, Willow is still there, helping to connect you with professionals across all latent life needs: insurance, assisted living, long-term care, even lawyers and estate planners or financial advisors. We realize we're not the first in this space, yet we are the first holistic asset planning application for the modern end-of-life needs. Anyone can make a form for you to take to a lawyer. Our key differentiators are legal asset, digital asset access and maneuverability, as well as physical asset tracking and allocation, both of which currently reside outside of traditional estate planning. We believe the market opportunity is straightforward. Our 5-year goal is to capture 5% of the families of the 40 million baby boomers with less than $1 million in assets lacking a will or trust. That 5% capture equals $100 million in revenue from our software as a service model. If you tie in our pay-per-lead revenue generation partnerships through assisted living facilities, estate and financial planners and lawyers, then we're looking at north of $120 million in revenue in the first 5 years. Please allow me to introduce the team. I'm Brian, a technologist, Clinton, user experience expert, and Allie, a civil engineer. We're all currently executive MBA students at Xavier with a combined 50-year track record of bringing complicated solutions to market. Our startup mentors are Lucy, a probate and estate attorney, and Mike, professor, mentor, and serial entrepreneur. Our path to success is straightforward. We create our MVP and receive feedback through test groups. We will then launch our beta and start building industry partnerships. Finally, we will sell licenses and scale as appropriate. A proven method through thinking big, starting small, and scaling quickly. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, and joining us today from Willow Estate Planning is Allie Scholl. Judges, take it away.
Hi, Allie. Thanks for being here today. So, and also thank you to Grandma for being a Fifth Third customer. I noticed that she had a nice bank account with us, too. So this is a really morbid topic, right? And it's one that children don't want to hear about from their parents, and parents are reluctant to talk about, their financials with their kids. So thinking about that 5% of boomers that you're going after, how do you become top of mind to them to want to even engage in the thought of planning it before it's, planning is kind of too late in some cases?
And that's actually what's really interesting is that we're not going after that 5% of boomers. We're going after me and you and my co-founders. We want to go after the next generation, or better yet, even the generation after that wants very much to help their grandparents plan, because we are of the empathetic generation. We believe in fairness and justice, and we want you help so that once that matriarch or patriarch leaves us, their intentions are well understood and so that the family can move forward with their grief and move forward without it turning into, what can happen, which is that folks see that physical asset as confirmation that they were loved by that individual. So the planning has to happen. And beyond that, a will isn't necessarily going to itemize every one of grandma's Hummels. So this is the equivalent of a Post-it note, but again, making sure that the family understands that they were cared for when that does happen.
Yeah, I'm going to push you a little bit more on this one. Okay. How are you going to get people to think about engaging with your app or wanting to come to you to then have that conversation with their grandma?
Well, it's tremendous timing with COVID-19, right? This is at top of mind. And in our research, we saw the number of people that do have wills is going up and up and up. So we think that it's very timely. We do expect, I don't know that I would go to the App Store seeking this out, right? So we're going to definitely rely some bit on word of mouth and working with our friends and sharing what we've been able to do for our families.
So I know the 3 team members are all executive MBAs right now, presumably have full-time jobs outside of this. I'm curious, who's in? Upon graduation, who of the 3 of you is committed to running this and making this your job?
So I'm the brains behind the operation, joking, but I am the operations person. Clinton is our user experience expert, and Brian is our IT expert. We are all fully committed, and frankly, our other students in our cohort, they want to help us. So we're really blessed to have the Xavier family, as well as you, Clinton and I have the UC family also to help push this forward.
Time for one more quick question.
Very quickly, so tell me how does this stack up against some of the other competitors that are out in the field?
Well, nobody's really doing this. People are, they're automating wills, making that easier and more accessible and less expensive, but nobody is really looking holistically at a person's assets, all of their assets, financial, physical, digital. So this is a little bit different because you could literally map everything that you own. You could pick and choose. And so this is, to us, it's the first of its kind.
All right. Thank you very much, Allie. Thank you for the time and for the wonderful presentation. We're going to move into our next contestant. We'll have Basis Theory from Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, everyone at Centrifuge. My name is Brian Billingsley, and I am one of the co-founders here at Basis Theory. And we're really excited to show you what we've been up to. So Basis Theory is a tokenization and encryption layer for the internet where we allow you to make your most sensitive data safe and usable, whether that's payments data, bank data, PII, etc. So I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to show you the full product. You can go to basistheory.com and try this for yourself. First thing to point out is everything you see here has been built and dog-fooded on our own APIs and SDKs, meaning you can build it all these services yourself if you never want to come back to our portal using infrastructure as code. And there's no hidden management API. Everything you see here, we were our own first customer. So the first thing to point out, we have the concept of tenancy. So we allow you to logically break up your data, whether it's for testing or prod or various geographies. And then you can create an application. So if you create an application, you click create an application. We have various apps types based on your job to be done. And once you choose your app type, you can give it full credit rights based again on what your job to be done is, what kind of data you're protecting, and how do you need to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to our sandbox and actually drop in an API key for this demo, and let's get tokenizing. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a simple example. So this is just tokenizing a simple string. So I've turned this string into a token. I know what tenant ID it is, what type of token it is, who created it, and with an ISO timestamp for logging purposes. So anything that you can serialize, you can tokenize: a string, a bool, a document, an image, obviously credit cards, bank data, etc. Another thing that really sets us apart is the ability to give our customers flexibility of how they want to secure that data. So you can either let us do all the encryption and tokenization for you, or if you have your own KMS and you wanted to roll your own keys, you can say, hey, I actually want to generate my own private key pair, and I want to make sure that I'm the only one that can ever decrypt that data, including Basis Theory. We don't want Basis Theory to ever decrypt that data. So this is an example of all Basis Theory could ever see is that token, and then only you with the private key could actually decrypt that data. We also have the different types of tokens. So if now we're talking PCI data, we're actually going to help. We want to make sure that we give you full flexibility and freedom, but keep you in PCI scope. So here's an example where you see an atomic type where you have the same the request and response bodies, but in this case, we're masking pieces of data to, again, keep you out of that PCI scope. We also have the concept of fingerprinting, where you can add different non-sensitive metadata to the token. So you can do searching, et cetera, and not actually have to detokenize. And we do the same thing for bank data as well. So that's how you get data into our system securely. I'm going to go back over here and show you how you can use the data and exchange the data, what we call enriched data, with those tokens. So we have the concept called reactors. So reactors are ways you can easily take data that you've asked us to secure and interact with other services to get value. So like a great example is Stripe. We enable you to quickly and easily use Stripe and send and exchange a credit card number that you always want to have access to and exchange that for a Stripe token. So now you can process with Stripe, and you can do that with as many processors as you want. If you have a reactor, a custom integration that you need that we don't support, or there's specific things that you want to keep private, you can create a private reactor. So basically it's your code, keep it in your GitHub repo, do your own testing, but we'll keep it safe for you, and you can use our tokenization services. So it's great for enterprises that have large or legacy integrations. That isn't a showstopper for us. We have great docs with examples with API references. We have guides, so please jump in and check this out. And then the last thing to show you is kind of a soup to nuts example on what can you do with that. So this is a very simple example of, I'm going to use basis theory front ends to take a credit card in. So I just used a credit card number. I created a basis theory token, and now I can go get various processor tokens and process with any of these processors I want to. I can even get bin information from in this case Parrot. So I'm sitting there as a company, and I can use multiple processors based on my business rules, and I can actually pull bin information and see if there's any other processor I should add, all while staying out of PCI scope. So that's just one of a few things we can do. Would love to show you more. Please reach out, bb@basistheory.com. Would love to get in touch with you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. A question for you, a very lofty goal that you have in front of you. Who are you marketing this to? It's pretty complicated.
Yeah, so I mean, we're really, it's really a two-pronged approach, because anytime you sell into enterprise, usually you are, can you not hear?
Brian, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Normally, it's a two-pronged approach where we're selling to a business executive, but typically there's a technical person in the room that's vetting, like, is our product real? So really, we wanted our product to be dev first, so when the engineers see it, they know like right away that this is a product that will be really easy to integrate and use, but also meets the business criteria to either lower costs or drive new transactions to the business.
Hey, Brian. So, we probably have a large non-technical audience that's on the stream right now. So imagine that you're selling to one of those business executives. How do you get what problem are you solving for them? How do they pay you, or do they pay you? And what do they get in return for using your product?
Sure, I'll give you a specific Fifth Third example. So we're actually working with a client that's taking in bank data from you. You're their ODFI. And right now, it's not in compliance with the new NACHA rules. And so when we're taking that data in from your flat file, they're saying we actually want to tokenize that so we can comply with the bank rules, with the NACHA rules that govern that bank network, and be in compliance. So we're actually helping, you don't even know, we're helping you and this insurance company be in compliance with the new NACHA rules. So basically for a SaaS-based fee, they're able to be in compliance and compliant with the new rules within hours. So.
Good example.
Great question.
And can you walk us through a little bit where are you at today in terms of traction, number of customers, where's the business at overall?
Sure, we're 17 people, mostly engineers. We've got 10 large clients that are currently integrating. One's live. We'll be at about $1 million run rate here. So happy where we are. We've got a humongous pipeline. So really excited. And it really spans across fintechs, insurance companies, banks, and merchants. So, you know, our the jobs to be done really spread across anyone that's touching sensitive data.
Thank you. Well, Brian, thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. We appreciate you joining us virtually here today, and good luck through the rest of the show. All right,
Thanks so much.
We're going to move on to our next contestant here. All the way from Miami, Florida, is Kitty Credit.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. I first off want to thank Centrifuge for bringing us this far in the process. Now, before I get started today, I want to take you all back into time. Think back to when you got your first credit card. Now, think back to some of the first purchases you made. Now, think back to when you saw your credit score for the first time. If you're like me, you have no idea how that score came to be. Hello, my name's Evan Leapart, founder and CEO of Kitty Credit. So what's the problem? Well, 2/3 of Americans can't pass a basic financial literacy test for starters, and 4 out of 10 adults don't even understand how this credit score came to be. So it got us to thinking. We wanted to make a solution that focuses specifically on teaching about credit before it's an issue. Credit, when leveraged properly, can be used as a tool to generate wealth, and increasing credit knowledge across all income levels has the ability to level the playing field, taking steps towards economic equality for those historically disadvantaged. So our thinking is that if we can improve the credit scores of citizens before they have access to it, we can improve numbers on home ownership and entrepreneurship. So, cute idea, but how do you do it? The way our product works is simple. An admin assigns chores or activities for the child to complete. After completing them weekly, they'll be issued a credit score based off of performance, which will determine how many rewards they get, which can be used to redeem items monetary or non-monetary, depending on the parent. And what is this credit score, you ask? It's simple. We created an algorithm that parallels traditional FICO models. So think of a missed chore like a missed payment. The longer you've had a chore, like the longer you've had a credit card. And anytime a child says, hey, mom, can I get this? Hey, dad, can I get this? Think of it like an inquiry. As for myself, I'm a professional mentor to youth, co-founder of the Black Men Talk Tech Conference. And as a serial entrepreneur, I believe entrepreneurship is the key to economic equality. And to increase access to capital for all, we must increase credit scores. Mike Gross, our head of education and COO, has taught financial literacy and entrepreneurship to inner city youth for over 15 years. Our CTO, Vic Moreno, was previously a lead engineer at AWS, senior engineer at Noom with a master's of science in finance. So not only does he code at a high level, but he also codes with a financial brain. Wish I had more time because I'd go through all the remaining team members. I assure you they're equally impressive. Since the launch of our public beta, we've had over 65,000 chores completed in the app, and we're approaching over 20,000 total users in the app, which amounts to about over 6,000 families. We've been featured in outlets like CNBC, Bankrate, Now This, and we're called the financial literacy app teaching kids about credit by Forbes. So what separates us in this financial literacy for kids space? Well, partnering with Equifax has been huge for us. It's validated us as a thought leader in effectively teaching credit to youth. We want to be focused on credit. And with that stated, we've built over 100 hours of educational content in the app that's going to be catered towards the preteen audience. So Equifax was a key partnership for us. Not only do we have them, we're also working with the YMCA, and we've also secured an MOU with a very large buy now, pay later company, which we're pretty excited about. Just can't say it here. Now, I know you guys are thinking, yeah, that's cool and all, but how does this make money? Our business model is B2B2C, as we work with organizations and municipalities looking to provide additional resources to their intended audience at a rate of $50 per year per family unit. We've decided B2B2C instead of B2C because, for one, we feel having organizational support can help around engagement and also eliminates having to monetize from the audience that needs this product the most, but doesn't need to pay monthly for an additional service. So what we're trying to do here is give kids a head start, right? What we do is we give these organizations the ability to add activities to the family unit. So instead of it saying Evan clean room, Evan make bed, it can also be Evan ask mom to sign permission slip. Or on a credit union or community bank side, it could be rewards, could be $50 to open a savings account. We just want to get these organizations involved in the family conversations. And winning this pitch competition will really help us take our products to the next level, as the funds will be used for further development and improvement of UX. I thank you all for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Evan Lee.
All right, and we're back. Sorry for the quick audio difficulties there, but we have joining us live from Miami, Florida. We're thrilled to have Evan Lephart with us. So judges, I will let you take it away with questions for Evan.
Evan, great to see you, and thanks for coming in from the whole way from Miami. I'm really curious. This play is really to acquire the parents, right? But to your point, a lot of the parents didn't have education on financial services. They themselves were faced with that education gap, and perhaps don't know it's an education gap because a lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? So how do you educate the parents to get on the platform so that they in turn can educate their children?
It's a great question. We always say it can be a chore to get parents to track chores. So what we found is like our super parent, our super user tends to be that person that experienced some form of financial hardship previously. So from an acquisition standpoint, that's really where we target. So we look at companies that really offer products that are catered towards individuals that are trending upward or need that helping hand. So for example, I was explaining there, we're doing something with the buy now, pay later company, but they focus on products that people need, not necessarily buy now, pay later on a PS5, but a tire or, just something to help you get over the hump. And then we're targeting with financial institutions being a part of like their financial wellness platform. So people that are trying to get on the right track, they tend to take that proactive approach towards wanting to use our product. But also what we're doing too is we're trying to do things that educate them as well. So by simplifying it so that kids can understand it, we also in that process are trying to make it simple for parents to understand too. So it's like, okay, my kid didn't do his chore. That's like me not making my payment. The longer I've given my kid this particular chore, that's why I should actually have my card for a longer period of time. I shouldn't close my oldest account. So just trying to create these real world examples that are, simple and easy to understand.
Yeah, it's definitely meaningful what you're going after. I'm curious. So there was a landmark study that came out of Ideas 42 a couple years back that said of all the billions of dollars spent by people going after financial wellness and trying to help with that, it's made less than a couple basis point difference in outcomes. And in fact, the average person, the knowledge and skills degrade almost completely after 2 months after completing the work. How do you, so the families, the kids grow up, right? They grow out of chores. How do you keep that going through those real formative college years and things like that?
It's a great question. So for us, we wanted to start the conversation a little earlier, right? And center it around habits, right? Like there's things, you can learn one lesson one time and then you kind of forget about it and it goes one ear out the other. But it's still the first step in the journey. So Kitty Credit's really addressing kind of that preteen audience. And then what we're trying to do is work on a product for teens and up, where we can essentially issue our own financial products using an education-based approval process. Everything that we're trying to do here is really level the playing field. So if you look at a lot of the decision-making now around credit, it's based off of either previous credit scores or financial history, which can still exhibit some sort of bias. So we're just in every step of the way trying to focus on the educational component, and we really want to get to a space to where you can learn to earn, right? Like you need a law degree before you can be a lawyer. Why not actually demonstrate you understand credit before you have access to it? So I don't think there's really a moment where that education dries out. We want to continually reinforce it at every step of the process. We just want to start that conversation around credit earlier because it typically happens too late.
We'll do one more question quickly.
Maybe tell us how you're going to work with the parents to devise what goes into this app and how they use it, because they're going to need to be led. And I don't know whether you're going to have online chat or what are you going to do to help people, because it seems to me that you're creating something that's going to be flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that we did is we took a look at some of our early users and figured out like what chores did they typically add, what rewards did they typically add, and it significantly improved our onboarding process. In that process, we do want to do a lot more hand-holding, especially with the B2B2C approach. So one thing I was explaining, we work with organizations and municipalities looking for unique ways to engage with their audience, and we give them the ability to add activities or rewards, things that will ultimately be more engaging with their audience. So in that process, that's where we'll kind of figure out what needs to go in there for it to be a meaningful experience for the parent, the child, and also the organization that's paying for them to get that experience.
Fantastic. Evan, thank you for the time. We appreciate you making the trip here by way of Money 2020, so even longer than it had to be. We're thrilled to have you here in town. Thank you for bringing Kitty Credit to the pitch competition.
Thank you. The rain is good.
All right, we'll move on to the next contestant today from here locally and here in Cincinnati. Let's roll the video from ACrew.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohsen Masjid, and I'm the founder and CEO for ACrew. ACrew is a platform for fractional real estate investing, and our mission is to democratize commercial real estate. How do we do this?
ACrew uses technology to remove the hassle of investing. No more piles of paperwork, no calls from tenants, no more obscure portfolios. We aim to maximize returns compared to REITs, funds, and crowd-funded investments. We cut out the middlemen, management layers, and portfolio downside risk to provide lucrative, direct ownership. Invest in the properties you want and receive your rentals and gains directly in your digital wallet. Sign up now to browse our marketplace. Once you've completed a regulator-mandated identity check, you can begin investing right away. Our secondary marketplace allows you to list and sell your investment tokens. Unlike traditional investment avenues with long holding periods and penalty fees, ACrew offers you total control and liquidity. You can list or sell your investment tokens at any time. No more month-long escrows or waiting days for funds to transfer. Deals in our marketplace are completed in seconds. With ACrew, you can start investing today without the hassle.
We use blockchain as the underlying technology to make this happen. There's certain key benefits for fractionalizing commercial real estate. What's our target market? We're open to accredited investors only right now. Now, that may sound like, wow, these people already have money, but let's define what an accredited investor is. That's someone who makes more than $250,000 a year as an individual or $350,000 a year as a household. There's about 12.4 million households across the US, which are accredited investor households. This means any middle management employee at a large firm like B&G, Fifth Third, First Financial, and so on and so forth. We intend on targeting 3.7 million of them. And we expect at an average that we invest in about $5,800. Not your billion-dollar ultra-high net worth individual, are they? That brings our total addressable market to 21.6 billion. What kind of assets do we list on the platform? We list core assets and core plus assets right now, and we'll eventually get to opportunistic assets. Now, you might be wondering what that means. So core and core plus assets are income-producing assets, which are completely stable or may need little or light value-add improvements in those assets. How do we make money? Our business model is really simple. We charge a small transaction fee, 1% on each side, every time there's a transaction that takes place. Now, every time an asset owner comes to us and wants to list their asset on the platform, we charge them a tiny fee, 3% of the equity sold on the platform, not the entire value of the asset. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our team. My name is Mohsen Masjid. I'm the founder and CEO. My experience is purely real estate. I cannot code to save my life. I'm not a technologist, but I've learned about blockchain. Other than myself, we've got a great team of people. Nurbek Kidikiv, our CFO, he's previously from Melacron and then at PNG, and now he's joined us. Will Powers, our head of capital markets, he's an industry veteran with over 30 years of experience. Our team is across the globe. Not only are we headquartered out of Cincinnati, but we have another office in Islamabad, Pakistan. As you can see, we've got a very diverse team. We're a team of 28 at this point. We're going very quickly. Our aim is to add another 50 jobs in Cincinnati in the next 12 months. Here are some numbers and some metrics. We're very lucky to have Draper Gordon Home lead our most recent seed round that we were oversubscribed for. But we had other partners like Milwaukee Venture Partners and Wisconsin Investment Partners. We're proud to say that we have a local investor, Queen City Angels, who came in a very big way, and we're glad to have their support.
Complicated? ACrew lets you focus on what is really important: life. Invest in premium commercial real estate for as low as $1,000 without hassle and worry. ACrew, making the exclusive inclusive.
My name is Mohsen Masood. I'm happy to answer any questions for you, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. And joining us today is founder and CEO of ACrew, Mohsen Masood. Judges, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. Welcome, Mohsen.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. Happy to answer questions.
Yeah, and wonderful example of how Startup Cincinnati gives you an investment, you create jobs. It's the way it should be.
Right.
So awesome to see that example. So typical two-sided marketplace. Can you walk us through how you're acquiring customers and how you're acquiring properties and what the economics of each side of that are?
So it's not just a typical two-sided marketplace, right? So where we are right now is we're open to credit investors only, but that means we've got the institutional asset owners and the individual asset owners, and then we've got the institutional investors and the individual investors. Where we intend on being in the next 12 months or so, so by the end of next year, we intend on opening the marketplace up to retail investors. And that's what our roadmap from the SEC and FINRA and CFTC has been agreed to as well. What that really does is that's where it opens up the marketplace completely to all the retail investors. Now, getting back to answering your question about how do we acquire those customers. So we've got multiple channels on acquiring on both sides of the marketplace, developing partnerships with real estate brokerages, with direct outreach to asset owners using our AI algorithm to reach out and identify prospect properties across the US is our source of assets on the platform. On the investor side, again, our biggest outreach is through our partnership programs through wealth managers, RIAs, and IBDs. They're the ones managing majority of the funds for most of Middle America, not just your high net worth individuals. And that's where we're all about democratizing commercial real estate deals. When a small or a mid-sized investor, someone with a few $100,000 in their savings account or with their financial advisor, when they want access to commercial real estate, they don't have that. You know, all that they have is they could write a $50,000 check and have that stuck in a BlackRock deal or a Citadel deal or an Oxford deal, and they would not receive that those funds back even if they needed it for the next 5 years. That's the problem that we're trying to resolve, and that's why we've opted in for that distribution channel. That's why we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity, the equal opportunity as the ultra-rich, as a top 1%, to grow their wealth within within the parameters available to them and within the financials available to them. So whether it's $1,000 or $5,000, not only are you able to invest that, but you're also able to liquidate it on the secondary market, which is a key differential between what's available out there. But yeah, thanks.
Let's go for one more question.
So real estate is pretty local. So where are you going to concentrate to begin with?
Yeah, so we're focused on Ohio. The first two deals were in Cincinnati. The next one is in Columbus. The deal after that, we have about 14 deals in the pipeline. The one after that is up in Louisville, followed by another one in St. Louis, then in Chicago, and then we're slowly expanding outwards. Our game plan is to focus on the Midwest, followed by the Sun Belt, and then eventually going to the coast. However, we have asset owners reaching out to us where we're even underwriting deals all the way from Anchorage to Manhattan and everything in between. So our eventual game plan is to go global. So while real estate is very local, it is a very global problem that you have that only a select few have access to this asset class. And that's why we're starting off with the US market. We're already expanding into the UK market. We're working with the top attorneys over there to expand, and they're working with the FCA to help us with their regulators. We've created partnerships with certain high net worth or royal family members within the UAE. We're expanding with people within Tokyo, so Japan, as well as other Asian countries and African countries as well. So while it's very local, it's very global at the same time too.
All right, Mohsen, thank you. That's all the time we have. We appreciate you joining us. We're going to move on to our next competitor for the day, which is from Dayton, Ohio, Coinage.
Hi, my name is Sigo Seguros, and I'm the founder of Coinage. As a first-generation immigrant from a developing country, I appreciate the value of small denominations of money and understand the financial benefit of loose change when managed properly. The challenge we face when collecting, handling, storing, or using coins for daily commerce is commonplace across the United States, and over the years, this has grown into a much larger issue which impacts all hardworking consumers like you and me. It is estimated that approximately $3 billion in minted U.S. pennies will go unaccounted for, ending up in landfills, parking lots, couches, and includes the reported $62 million in coins found in trash annually in the U.S. The ongoing coin circulation disruption is encouraged in part by the fact that approximately $48 billion in coins are sitting in homes across the United States. Our solution is simple. The Coinage app provides a platform for users to receive up to $99.99 in loose change electronically following a simple QR code scan. Funds deposited in the mobile wallet by participating merchants can then be transferred in real time into a bank account or credit or debit card of choice. This process eliminates the hassle of handling loose change, provides security, keeps all coins in circulation while allowing user accessibility in real time. We have created a simple and user-friendly interface which ensures ease of use and a quick turnaround time for all transactions at the point of sale. So how do we make money? We charge 8% in processing fees for every withdrawal made from the mobile wallet. With an estimated 3 million plus users completing an average transaction of $1 per month, we are projecting a revenue of $2.88 million in our first year. Our users will attract third-party products and services and vice versa. Data collection and distribution will be used to generate revenue as we gain more users, and we will treat data collected as an asset and gain benefits for maximizing its value. Other opportunities exist once we conclude planned strategic partnerships with financial institutions. The total addressable market is 46 million users, and this represents the number of US adults who own smartphones and prefer cash for payments. The total obtainable market is 24 million users, and this represents US adult cash users who prefer not to carry coins. At a $1 minimum transaction per user, this provides Coinage with access to $288 million in loose change annually. Our main competitor in this space is Coinstar, and although they have seen years of success, the Coinage app is designed to improve efficiency while providing savings and fees for consumers. 100% of over 500 individuals surveyed across the United States stated that they would prefer change electronically deposited in the mobile wallet versus receiving change physically. It is clear from the $43 billion in coins processed that cash-using consumers value their change. To ensure success, we will initiate an aggressive marketing strategy aimed at acquiring 3 million plus users in the first year following launch between 2022 and 2023. Reaching our milestone requires funding, and as such, we are seeking $500,000 seed round investment. The Coinage app was designed and developed by a team of hardworking immigrants who are focused on challenging the status quo. With extensive experiences ranging from research, project management, financial management, and software development, I believe that we have the right team to drive the core mission of Coinage, which is to redefine consumers' experience with loose change by simplifying how we pay out, collect, convey, or store all coin denominations. Our vision is to create an ecosystem where the value of all loose change resulting from cash transaction is guaranteed through the provision of security, availability, and accessibility in real time. Thank you so much for listening. I urge you to join us on this path to reimagine the way we handle loose change.
All right, thank you. And joining us today, the founder and CEO of Coinage is Cigo Seguros. Judges?
Hi, Chica. I jotted down here, by the way, Coinstar, big machines, and also dirty hands. So I really like this product. But when I think about point of sale systems and what needs to happen on adoption rate, I just wanted to find out what your target market is, what what your timeline is for integrating into the point of sale systems.
Thanks for the question. So currently what we're focusing on for first few years will be the small businesses. We are doing a lot of research into the businesses in the U.S. who use mostly cash. And these are the ones we're going to focus on. The goal is to build a consumer base for us, our users, build those numbers to where it's profitable, and then the big merchants, the chain merchants will see that and then be attracted to this idea. But we will definitely focus on those people in the community where this is mostly needed, the small businesses who we're going to focus on first.
Maybe just a quick follow-up, because you said year one, 3 million users, right? So that's a lot of small shops. So that seems aggressive to me.
It is very aggressive, and we're, the goal here, the business we have, we understand that the power lies in the users. A lot of Americans are hurting with the loss of coins, as you can see the numbers displayed. The goal is to attract as much users as possible in the first year. With those users, that power can, help us again market this to where it should be, the chain stores. So we're using a model that's not common, but I think is what we need sometimes, is the power of the population that pushes the business itself, and that's what we're trying to achieve here.
When you think about cash, so cash handling is expensive for small businesses.
Correct.
How are you planning to incentivize them to want to take more money, which means more trips to a Fifth Third branch, to exchange that for digital currency for themselves?
So the platform that we've built eliminates the need for them to even handle coins at all. So they'll be partners with us to where all the transactions are virtual. So we're eliminating 10% of the cost that about 10% that they incur managing coins in the first place. So we're trying to take that completely away. So this process will be completely eliminating the need for consumers to handle cash and for merchants to handle cash. So it'll just be cashless as far as change is concerned.
So what would someone's Coinage account actually be? Is it a micro account? Is it sitting somewhere? Where does the money actually exist in the ether?
So the goal for us initially is to give people the power to control their money. So once the money goes into a Coinage account, immediately they can transfer back into their bank account. The withdrawal button gives you everything you have in your account back into your checking account or savings account. We want to give them that much control. What we're trying to eliminate is the fact that about $4 billion is sitting in people's homes, they cannot use it, and that is leading to all these issues. So the initial goal is to make sure you get the change, you can have that back in your account in real time. So the money stays with you at every point in time, you're spending, you're using it, that's our goal. Now, there are opportunities for partnerships, right, where money going in the Coinage wallets can be used for things, but these are discussions we're going to have with our future partners.
All right, Chica, thank you for your time. It's a very quick rapid-fire session. We appreciate you being here with us. Let's move on to our next contestant now, Tesoro.
I am Angie Yemen, and I am co-founder and CEO of Tesoro. We are building a modern infrastructure platform from the ground up to service SaaS companies that would like to embed financial services into their platform. And we're starting with payments. And before we get into what exactly that means and how we are going to do that, I'd first like to explain why we are doing this and the problems we are going to solve. I started my career managing a local Fifth Third branch in an underbanked area. And the small businesses ran on very thin margins, accepting overdraft fees to float their business expenses. I saw hardworking individuals use a system that, quite frankly, wasn't working. And for the last 15 years, I've worked exclusively with embedded payments. I have worked with some of the best SaaS companies, Uber, Toast, and locally Club Essential, and have seen the struggles they faced when embedding payments. The hours, the frustration, the confusion, the learning curves, the roadblocks, all to create the next generation of how we consume financial products. So what does that mean today and with Tesoro? Over the last 20 years, we have seen the rise of the internet, the cloud, and mobile technologies, which have created the perfect opportunity to modernize the way consumers and businesses manage their finances and conduct business. And it started with payments. My team and I actually developed a payment facilitator model that allowed for the success of businesses like Shopify and Square. But the race to embed payments and other services has actually just begun. And the market opportunity is huge. Recent studies have shown that only 8% of payments have moved to an integrated model. It is growing at 2 times the rate of the overall market. There are expectations that 40% of all payments will run through SaaS companies in the near future. So what does all that mean? All of this disruption and advancement of fintech was really the shifting of distribution, or sales, of payments from banks to technology companies. PayPal, Square, Stripe all made it easy to accept cards as a form of payment, which had huge benefits to both the cardholder and the small business. But for the technology company that wants to offer these services, it's really hard. And that's because they are all being built on the same disjointed and antiquated infrastructure with high regulatory requirements, multiple vendors, which cause massive roadblocks and delays to the real growth. An example of one of the only companies that is able to overcome these burdens is Uber, my former client at Vantive. We all know how easy Uber is for the passenger to use, but let's think about how the driver gets paid. In the beginning, the only option was a standard ACH that occurred weekly and took several days to reach the driver's bank accounts. When Uber tried to provide a faster way to pay their drivers, they couldn't go to the same bank that they went to for payments. The service wasn't offered. The average Uber driver may fall into an underbanked category, or someone who lives paycheck to paycheck. In the standard payoff process, they had to wait 5 days for the funds to hit their account. Imagine if you had an emergency expense, waiting for that money you earned is extremely stressful. Now, what if you could drive all day, make the money you need, and get paid instantly? It's life-changing. Oh, and now 90% of their drivers do elect to get paid in real time. So why was it so hard? And why is Uber one of the only companies that can do that in today's world? There's no one-stop shop for the branded card or the real-time funds disbursement. Very few companies have the scale to do this. As I walk around my neighborhood, surrounded by my favorite local businesses, I know that by creating a new acquiring infrastructure platform, it will benefit my community and your community multiple times over and will make our cities better places to live. Tesoro was founded with a laser focus on ushering in the next generation of embedded payments. This includes unparalleled speed to market, simplifying all things card payments, offering complete control of the user experience. And this is all being built by the most advanced payment team in the market. Our team comes from Visa, Fifth Third Bank, Dell, Finish Line, Klarna, Phoenix, and more. And we're taking all of that experience and a deep understanding of the problem to build the first new payment processor in over a decade.
Joining us today from Tesoro is Angie, co-founder and CEO. Judges, the floor is yours.
Hi, Angie. Thanks for being here. I'm curious, as you think about the competitive landscape, obviously a lot of really smart people thinking about payments, from Square to incumbents. What prevents them from launching something that could eat your lunch?
Thanks, George. Great question. So we want to think about the payments ecosystem, right? A lot of us don't actually think about that. Our card just works and it's great, right? But when we think about the payments ecosystem, there is the networks, there's the acquiring platforms, and you have to be an acquiring bank or an acquiring platform to actually communicate to Visa and MasterCard. Stripe and Square and other companies like that actually sit below an acquiring platform or an acquiring processor. We're actually tackling that acquiring processing layer, right, in order to solve the challenges that they faced 10 plus years ago when they were actually building their platform at that time.
This will be a dumb question. Can you just kind of walk me through what, like from A to B?
A to B as far as
what the product is.
Okay.
I don't know if I quite understood it on the
Great. Okay, great. So no, it's actually a great question. Most people are card holders, right? We have a card in our wallet and we know that it works. We have no idea how the other half of that equation works. I think you might, but coming from a large acquiring processor. And so just like so if you think about Visa and MasterCard, right, you have your card in your wallet, but you actually didn't go to Visa and MasterCard to get that. You went to your bank, right? So Visa and MasterCard kind of sit at the top of the ecosystem and rule the roost, if you will, right? They set the rules. And they actually only talk to acquiring banks and acquiring processors. So the acquiring bank, like a Fifth Third, is the bank that sponsors that merchant into the ecosystem. So they're the ones that take on the risk, right, and say, you know what, XYZ business, I like you, you're not a bad actor, we're gonna let you into this ecosystem. The technology for that is what's called an acquiring processor. That's what we are actually building. So the existing processors that are out there today, there actually aren't too many of them, right? Fiserv, FIS, they're very large, and quite frankly, they were built during a different time. They were built when businesses were conducted, business was still conducted on Main Street, right? Certainly not in an e-commerce environment, and not an environment that we're seeing today where there are third-party processors or marketplaces, right, where there are a technology company providing embedded payment solutions. So we actually believe that the real kind of blocker to the growth of the expansion of the embedded payments market is this underlying ecosystem or acquiring processor that sits out there today that just was built not for our current business models, right? So we're tackling it at that level to build a new acquiring processor built for the modern, embedded financial age.
We've got time for one more question.
So that's a lot to bite off all at once. When you think about the ability to finance your company to the point where you can actually start to generate that dollar of revenue, how are you thinking about your path there? What's your roadmap? What's your capital plan?
Yeah, great question. So yes, it is a big undertaking. Our MVP is quite large. So fortunately with our team, we are currently able to self-fund the business. And we have a team of 5 right now, half of which are engineers. So they're, which have the experience in building payment processing platforms. We plan to look to a pre-seed note early, sometime next year, and go the venture capital route beyond that.
Wonderful. Well, Angie, thank you for your time. We appreciate you joining us and sharing Tesoro. All right, let's move on to our next contestant and final contestant of the day from Cincinnati, Ohio, Pay Theory.
FinTech is the great catalyst for creating a drastically different world. If you take a minute to think, you can see that the future has arrived. Cryptocurrency is changing real-world markets. Peer-to-peer money transfers are happening instantly on our phones. And I can download an app and get my apartment insured before I get through this presentation. FinTech is truly living up to the promise of disrupting markets. This rapid innovation is solving some real problems, all the while creating discrepancies of access for millions of people. Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo Martinez, and I am joined today by Eric Folkert.
Hello there. We are 2 of the co-founders for Pay Theory, a fintech company on a mission to bring financial inclusivity to a diverse world. We've been working with leading human insights researchers to better understand some of the challenges faced by American families. You see, for tens of millions of people, payments kind of suck. We've unearthed stories that we found from Maggie L. Her high school's daughter's AP classes last year cost between $150 and $200 per semester. In addition, she's paying around $400 a year so her daughter can participate in marching band. She wants to pay it all, but it's too much all at once. And keeping track of these payments on top of everything else is a headache. On the other side of the equation, we're seeing cases of over $100,000 in fees go uncollected.
More personally, I can tell you of times when I've gone to the dentist and the doctor and I've missed a payment because of some technical issues. It's not just the experience of completing a payment that needs to be overhauled. It's everything leading up to it. In my case, an email quickly cleared things up. I had funds set aside, access to online banking tools, and if you're here at FinTech Frontier, you might be in a position where you have those funds available to you too, and have access to digital banking. But let's talk about those that don't. In the US, 20% of Americans don't have any of their annual income saved. Over 40% of the population will have less than $10,000 saved by the time they retire. 2/3 of people would struggle to scrounge up $1,000 in the case of an emergency. And then there's cash. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, cash accounted for 1 in every 5 transactions last year. And that was in the midst of a pandemic that forced everybody inside for most of the year.
The system that exists now isn't made to include all. It favors those on the higher end of the socioeconomic spectrum. Over the past 15 years, companies have been racing to solve problems that turn quick profits, focusing their services towards businesses and individuals that have money. In recent years, there's been a push for inclusivity and to help those in the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum through fintech. However, these solutions often have a difficult time turning a profit or do not actually help these individuals. We have figured out how to service the entire socioeconomic spectrum, and it all starts with families. That's where Pay Theory comes in. Pay Theory is a fintech tool that takes a uniquely holistic and inclusive approach to payments. The key is unifying the payments experience. In order to effectively unify payments, we need to serve the 3 main parties involved in payments: families, SaaS platforms, and service providers. Families interact with vital service providers like their schools, daycare, sports, extracurricular, healthcare, amongst others. These service providers utilize SaaS tools to deliver these services. For example, a service provider like a school will use a SaaS platform like a student registration tool. They will also use a separate platform to handle school lunches. On top of that, there is yet another tool that the school uses for ticketing in athletics and for the arts. A school district will have over 100 of these tools that a family could potentially interact with and over a dozen different payment point of contacts. It gets overwhelming quickly.
The existing ecosystem is made up of hundreds of isolated experiences. That's the real impact of Pay Theory's holistic approach. It's about being intentional about solving complex problems. It's about empowering schools to allow parents to pay online with card, ACH, or physical cash, while Pay Theory shifts the burden of liability onto a network of over 55,000 retail partners across the country through our remote cash payments. It's about empowering healthcare workers to reduce the barrier to care by making expenses more manageable through buy now, pay later plans. Or maybe more accurately said, access now, pay later plans. It's about unifying a fragmented must-pay experience that families deal with into one single, simple experience.
We have a great team made up of fintech, edtech, and health tech experts, going after interconnected verticals that have incredible market potential. It's been less than a year since we've launched customer number 1, but since that time, we've been seeing Pay Theory fully integrated into registration, forms, and interoperability tools in the world of edtech. We've also begun that process with players in the pharmaceutical space, major hospitals, child sports, and others. We're reshaping the potential of fintech to be inclusive, and we're doing it right here in Cincinnati.
Okay, joining us today is the technical mind behind it all, co-founder and CTO Eric Folkert from Pay Theory. Judges, take it away.
So Eric, thanks for joining us today. Where are you going to concentrate? That's a pretty broad spectrum to be able to go after in terms of distribution. So needless to say, you're going to have to kind of keep building one sector and then learn from that and do the next. That's my assumption, but maybe I'm wrong.
So our focus is anywhere families have to pay payments. And so there's you started to bleed across some of these things. And so like today, we've started out with schools because that's where families are at. And the healthcare sector we've actually found has been more receptive than the ed tech sector. So like right now we're in talks with 3 different telemedicine companies, a healthcare network, a couple other groups, because they have this missing third of the market. 1/3 of American families are under and unbanked. And so as we go out there and actually show them they have this missing problem, they've been pretty excited to talk to us. So the good news also is our technology is pretty universal. We integrate right now at the checkout, and so they already have the system. So it's an idea of, do you use something like a Stripe or do you use Pay Theory? So we don't have to get very specific in a vertical.
Eric, I'll ask a quick question. Could you share, if I'm trying to pay for my kids' lunches with cash, could you kind of walk me through what that process would look like?
So obviously the first side is that you give the kid the money and they could potentially take it to school. The second way that you'd use that is in Pay Theory. If the lunch provider is enabled, you would go online, you would go to checkout, but instead of using a credit card or e-check, you would go through and choose cash. You get a one-dimensional barcode that you would take to Family Dollar, Dollar General, CVS, Walgreens. You go to the checkout, you scan it at the checkout, it says $20, you give them the $20. By the time the cash door closes, it's reconciled in the back end. So online forms no longer become a point of discrimination. So that way you're already at these locations. You can go ahead and do it if you're a cash family, you're there doing these things. And so it kind of makes it a simple step instead of all those other steps you have to take normally. So
So you mentioned that the integration's at the payment. Who's responsible for that integration? How difficult is that integration? Is it low code, no code? Walk us through, and who's responsible for doing it?
If I said anything involving no code, my developers would come in here and murder me. So no, most of our partners, it takes about a week to maybe 2 weeks. So we have a local partner here, Abre, who's another Cincinnati startup. And it took them about a week to do the integration. So.
All right. Ron, do you have a question to close us out?
Just real quick question. You said ed tech is your space right now. Thinking about the growth of that sector, I mean, I know how slow educational sector could be. How long did it take to get into that space, and how quickly do you think you're going to scale that across the sector?
Great question. So the actual school-based stuff is very, we call it lumpy. You know, you get a lot of stuff at the beginning of the school year, but there's a lot of things that go on all year round. So sports activities, childcare, things like that. And so it's not very difficult for us to go in because we don't have to be part of the bidding process for education. So as I like to say, we're the mustard. You know, the Abre, for example, is the hot dog. The school buys the hot dog. What are you going to have in the hot dog? It's pay theory. And so we go through and do that. And so it makes our sales cycle a lot easier. So.
All right, Eric, thank you. We'll close with that comment on hot dog analogies. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for your time. That concludes the pitches for today. So a special thanks to all of our judges here who are working with us and with FinTech Frontier. They are now going to head off to begin deliberations on selecting a winner. And you in the live stream audience should now see a poll appearing in the chat function, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or otherwise. Look in the chat function. You'll see a poll appear there. You have 5 minutes to fill out the poll and select your favorite pitch of the day. Again, 5 minutes. It's very quick. So get in there now, click the link, and enter your vote. While our judges deliberate, I'd like to welcome a couple others to the stage. John Steger, who is the Director of Startup and Entrepreneurial Services at Centrifuge. John will be reconnecting with last year's pitch winners, beginning with Will Carter from We Prosper. Thank you again for tuning in, and hang around here while John and Will take the stage. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. All right, so we can sit wherever you like. But all right, so I'm John Steger. Thank you very much, Mark.
I'm Will Carter.
And how are you, Will? So, you know, We Prosper was one of our 3 winners last year, and it's hard to believe it's been a year.
Yeah.
It feels like 10.
Yeah, the year has flown by quite quickly. Right after the FinTech Frontier competition, we were in the midst of a capital raise at that time. We had just kind of hit the wall of trying to figure out how to encourage our network to really support us, and the FinTech Frontier competition really catapulted that. So we went from kind of lukewarm reception to a very excited audience, and we ended up oversubscribing our capital raise at that point. So the year really took off from that standpoint.
Fantastic. So I'm sure we have some viewers that did not tune in last year. So you want to do a quick description of what We Prosper is and what you guys are working on?
So WeProsper.com is a FinTech Frontier platform that allows the community to become stakeholders in the establishment of Black-owned businesses. Just that simple. Our goal is to help the Black community close the wealth gap by investing in startups and in successful businesses. What we've been up to is essentially the whole startup process and launch. So we went from capital raise to the whole technical development side of the business, getting the marketing side of the business together, and the most important part, which is completing the process of SEC qualification. So the progress we've made to date is that we're waiting on the SEC to give us their authorization. So that process is still going. Technical development is nearly complete, so we're in beta testing with that. And we're developing the marketing because of SEC regulation, we're not able to talk to the general public at this time. So we're continuing to talk to angel groups and things of that nature. But yeah, it's been a very full year since then, and things have gone by quite quickly.
I'm sure. So except for the SEC part, I'm sure. So, and is that the same as kind of registering for crowdfunding to allow anybody to invest?
So crowdfunding, depending on how it's done, if it's investment crowdfunding, then you have to be SEC regulated. We're going for what's called a Regulation A Tier 2 exception. So kind of the same. We like to say we're Robin Hood for investment.
Okay, exciting.
Yeah.
So I know you never really know when that gets wrapped up, but when do you anticipate or hope that you might be cleared and on to the next phase?
So we're anticipating being wrapped up in November. Things actually it actually took us longer to get through the legal and application phase than the actual submission. It was quite thorough, quite in-depth. We did enjoy the support of Centrifuge and the support of the FinTech Frontier organization over the past year with an intern. They've helped us develop our marketing and online presence. And we're also right now talking to various ventures that want to be a part of our startup as well. So we've continued to reach out to the accredited investor community. But right now, getting to the unaccredited investor community is just what we're waiting for the SEC to give us authorization to do.
Okay, so first, I do know that once we've hit that point, we are going to have a launch party here in Union Hall. So looking forward to that. We'll be sending out invitations, no doubt, to everybody here in the room and everybody online. So you need to come and bring your checkbook.
Absolutely.
So what happens then, right? So you launch, and then what's the first step? Pulling in investors? Do you have a pipeline of companies already in mind?
So I'll answer the last question first. Pipeline of companies, absolutely. We've got a lot of interest from a lot of interested companies, a lot of ideas on the table. And what we're focusing on right now is vetting that whole process, literally sitting down with them, going through the financials, going through that whole kind of startup establishment phase to see which ones we're going to invest in first. So if things go really well, we know what we're going to do. If things go slow, we know what we're going to do. If we're a blockbuster, we know what we're going to do.
And what kind of businesses are you looking at?
So without giving away the secret sauce, we've got a company that's done very well in the hair care business, has the potential to be a national brand. We're really excited about that. We've got a local company that's doing business in the construction sector. They've kind of had a very good first year themselves and are looking for expansion capital and support for back office, so we're excited about that. In terms of real estate, we've got some neighborhoods or some neighborhood groups that are looking to reinvest in their neighborhood, and they've actually brought a group together to help support from an investment standpoint on their end as well. So we're looking at investing in that. So yeah, those are just kind of our top three, but we got a pretty deep bench. So
fantastic, and all in Cincinnati at this point?
Well, not all in Cincinnati, but primarily in Cincinnati, yes.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
And then, so you hit go with letting people in as soon as the SEC letter hits the inbox?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that's been really great for us is the reception in the community has been terrific. I was at the Network Executive Women's Conference on Monday, and the moment I introduced myself and that I was CEO of We Prosper and what we did, the whole room broke out in applause. And it was just kind of surprising to me because folks are so ready to be a part of the startup community in a way that they hadn't been able to be before. So it's awesome. Really exciting, and to that end, our reception has been great. So we're anticipating a large launch. We're just trying to get ready for it.
Terrific. And did you open for Damon John?
I did not open for Damon John. That would have been amazing. We actually prepared to meet Damon John, but we didn't get that opportunity. But it was at a point when they were asking the audience for questions. And folks around the room were standing up, introducing themselves, and asking their question. And I was the last to go and stood up, introduced myself, and We Prosper. And nobody else got a round of applause. I'm going, wow, this is pretty amazing. So.
Exciting. So lots of pent-up demand.
Lots of pent-up demand, absolutely. And yeah, it's a little bit scary because it's like being 15 years old and being tossed into a Formula One car. I think from a standpoint of investment programs that are geared towards the Black community to help the community invest in startups, there just isn't anyone else. There are a couple of startups out there that launched and maybe they're doing okay, but it's a pretty blue ocean environment. So I think the community, I think the country as a whole is ready to see us get out there and do well.
Fantastic. And to be clear, anybody can invest, right?
That is absolutely clear.
All right.
We've got a lot of interest from all parts, not just our community. And I've been blessed to be able to sit down with a lot of the banking leaders. I mean, Fifth Third is one of our supporters for the FinTech Frontier program. They've been very supportive, but also other banks in Cincinnati as well have reached out their hand and said, hey, if you guys need capital, whatever you need, just let us know. So that it's very encouraging. The support in Cincinnati has been amazing.
Fantastic. Really exciting. Looking forward to it. So do you have a list where people can sign up, join your mailing list or something, and find out when the doors open?
Absolutely. So if they would go to weprosper.com, that's spelled with an I, not an E. Go to weprosper.com. You can drop your name, email right there, and we'll be reaching out and keeping you abreast of our startup progress.
All right. Terrific. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait for the next phase. After working with you and seeing all the progress over the past year, it'll be a banner day.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And it's been really exciting working with John and Mark. I mean, you guys have just been amazing. The support of the interns, helping us out with reaching the legal community here in Cincinnati, helping us, just reach out into the community. The support has been amazing. And that, when I talk to other potential startup leaders about Cincinnati, I talk about the support and how Cincinnati is really, kind of like a family. It's a really small community. Folks kind of know each other, and just the support has been amazing. I don't think that there's other ecosystems in the country that are as tight-knit as this community is. So we've really enjoyed being a recipient of the FinTech Frontier program, and it has just been, it's been an intense year, and we're just really excited to get out there and get started.
2023 will be even bigger. Love it.
Yep.
All right. So we have one of our teams couldn't join us today. So are we ready to roll a video update from our friends at InsureLife? All right, let's do that.
Good afternoon, FinTech Frontier. This is Jeff Tesoro. I'm the CEO and co-founder of InsureLife. We're an InsureTech startup, and we had an opportunity to participate in the pitch competition in the fall of 2020, and just wanted to give everybody an update where we stand today. We've had an incredible year. Since the competition, we've been able to raise a significant amount of capital for our seed round. In addition, we have a VC out of Charlotte, North Carolina in the InsureTech space that made an investment, as well as one of our corporate partners, an insurance company out of Connecticut, that also made an investment in our seed round. We are closely managing our launch, or soft launch here, actually the end of this week. We are starting out with some product offerings, helping a company by the name of Aflac that everybody might be familiar with, as well as Nassau. And we are excited to really bring InsureLife to market, and just wanted to say hello to everybody, and really hope the competition goes well. I wish everybody the best, and it's a great effort that the folks at Centrifuge are sponsoring and putting together, and it's done a lot to give us the exposure necessary to move the ball down the field. So thanks to everybody, and good luck to you.
A thriving startup community is important for Cincinnati because Cincinnati has always been a driving force for innovation throughout our history. Cincinnati, again, is ripe to be that engine to help drive innovation in this ecosystem. We have great universities, we have great companies to all fuel that energy, and so when that technology comes about and the new innovation comes about, you can feed those directly into the large corporations that touch the world every single day.
Having a thriving startup community in Cincinnati is critical for our long-term economic vitality. As an individual and a working mother who moved here after almost 2 decades living and working in Manhattan, I found myself in Cincinnati. And you might ask why. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this place. First, it's the heartbeat of the nation. When you come to a community like Cincinnati and the greater Cincinnati region, what you find is everyone is willing to help. And it's why I brought my family here. It's why I moved my career here. USA Today ranked us as one of the top places for millennials to live. The second year I moved here from New York City, the New York Times had us in the top 10 list of the 52 places to visit in the year.
We have a half a dozen Fortune 500 companies, and 3 of those are financial services and insurance. You've got companies like Procter & Gamble and Kroger, who are at the epicenter of retailing, branding, and customer understanding. And companies like these, they're going to be your customers, your investors, your mentors.
So customers, talent, and money are the 3 things that a startup needs. And you'll find all of those here in Greater Cincinnati. So in this instance, if you want to talk about FinTech, we've got a concentration of InsurTech and FinTech here, from Western Southern, Cincinnati Financial, Fifth Third Bank, US Bank, PNC. They all have a significant presence here in the Greater Cincinnati region.
A lot of companies these days do lean on startups. And specifically within FinTech, there's a big trend for financial services companies to lean heavily on partnerships with FinTechs. And a good startup ecosystem of domain expertise, technical expertise, kind of pushing the boundaries into what's new, is ultimately the future wave of how big corporations are going to continue to evolve and invest into new technology and new ecosystems. The corporations that are headquartered here, Fortune 500 kind of focus, they bring a lot of talent into the city and they stay here.
Centrifuge is a startup catalyst that combines services for startups, a syndicated fund of funds of about $115 million in invested capital, and services for big companies to help them think and act like a startup. I'm a California native. In fact, I went to school in the Silicon Valley. I decided to locate my company in Cincinnati because the advantages are absolutely tremendous. Cost of living, supportive ecosystem, access to talent, access to big companies that are hungry to do pilots.
There's no better place to invest in the United States than in the Midwest right now.
We are looking for great startups that want to be part of our community, about building our region, but also about building our business.
So I would recommend any entrepreneur that wants to be able to start a business in a place that isn't going to break your bank and also has a tremendous ecosystem around it and can give you your work-life balance. Cincinnati is definitely the place for you to consider.
Aspiring fin InsurTech entrepreneurs out there, come to Cincinnati. We'll welcome you with open arms, and we'll do everything we can to help you ramp up really, really fast.
All right, so we're back, and joined by another one of our winners from last year, George from Honeycomb Credit. So, I think foremost on everybody's mind is, so have you moved to Cincinnati yet?
I wish. This is the first time I've been back in Cincinnati in a couple of years, staying in over the Rhine. My goodness, that neighborhood has changed. So many fun things to do. Really enjoying my time here. So when I get back to the office, I might be seeing if I can pull some people down to Cincinnati.
Good. Home away from home at least. Right. Still in Pittsburgh, but that, rivalry aside, close enough. Great. So how has the past year been?
It's been phenomenal for us. We've been growing like crazy. We're up to 12 employees right now. Last year, I think when we competed in the competition here, we had done loan campaigns in 5 or 6 different states. We've now done campaigns in 23 different states. We had moved about $3 million across our platform. We have now moved $10 million across our platform. So the company's growing fast. We've got some really exciting things coming up. We're going to be launching some mobile applications in a few weeks here. So lots of really cool things happening at Honeycomb.
That's fantastic. And for those that weren't tuned in last year, can you tell us a little bit about Honeycomb's target market and what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So Honeycomb is a loan crowdfunding platform. We let locally owned small businesses borrow from their own customers, fans, and community members. So the look and feel is kind of like an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter, but instead of donating $100 and hoping that t-shirt comes in the mail, you're actually investing $100 or $1,000 or in some cases even $10,000 into a locally owned business, earning a competitive return and helping a business owner, an entrepreneur achieve their dreams.
That's fantastic. And what's the typical loan size you've found? And has that changed in the past year?
It has, yeah. So right now our typical loan size is about $75,000. That's grown pretty significantly from about $40,000 last year, so increasing pretty quickly. We're still helping a lot of businesses, someone who's buying their first food truck and they need $20,000 or $30,000. We still do a lot of those, but we've also started to prove that we can do $250,000 loans or even more. So kind of moving upstream into some larger businesses while still making sure we're serving smaller businesses as well.
Okay, and similar to We Prosper, available for anybody to participate, not accredited investors?
That's exactly right, yeah. So we're registered with the SEC and FINRA, so it's a regulation crowdfunding funding portal, so anyone is able to invest.
Wow, really exciting. And is there a state regulation? So you say 23 states, or is this a truly national market and it's just limited by where people have signed up so far?
Yeah, it's blue sky, so it's just national. There's a few I's and to dot and T's to cross in different states, but overall we can run campaigns anywhere in the United States. I keep telling my team to go get me a campaign in Puerto Rico because I want to go do a site inspection.
Okay, well, I don't know how broad our audience is today, but if you're in Puerto Rico and listening and want to grow your small business, what's the website?
It is honeycombcredit.com.
No, fantastic. And is your team, you've grown in the past year. What did you start in, so you're 12 now. Where did you start?
Yeah, so, it started obviously just my co-founder and I and kind of one employee early on. Last year when we presented, we were probably about 6 people, so we probably about doubled in size since the presentation last year.
Okay, and all in Pittsburgh?
So the team is distributed. We have a few folks in Ohio, but on the other side of the state, a couple team members in Cleveland, someone in Detroit, someone in Philadelphia, but mostly based in Pittsburgh.
Okay, no, fantastic. We've certainly seen as companies have grown in Cincinnati, we've been kind of an importer and an exporter virtually of talent. So not at all unique there, and mostly I think that's a really positive trend. Terrific. What's in store next?
So I alluded to it. We are in the process of re-platforming all of our technology. So because we're launching some mobile applications, we were rebuilding our back end. And we are right now going to be launching on this new technology within the next few weeks, launching mobile applications a few weeks later. And I think it's just going to create some really fun, sticky user experience. Imagine you invest in the local brewery, you walk in, you can engage with that brewery on a whole new level, both in terms of some rewards and perks. You can learn about loan crowdfunding campaigns by walking in the door of your favorite business and invest while you're waiting for your latte. So we're going to be able to do some really, really cool stuff. It's all coming up very soon.
Fantastic. All right, I look forward to that. Hopefully we can get some more Cincinnati deal flow so I can...
I should mention next week we'll be launching a campaign for a Cincinnati-based business. Really excited about it, so keep your eyes open. I'm not allowed to say who it is just yet, but check the honeycombcredit.com website next week and you'll find a really fun small business based out of the Findlay Market area on the platform.
Exciting. All right, well, we love Findlay Market. All right, so I understand that we are almost already, we're already. Okay, almost already. All right, sorry, a little communication challenge there. We have a few more moments or minutes until we're done with the judging. But it's exciting to see all the innovation happening in the Midwest. I think when we started this out last year, there is sort of the preconceived notion that all the financial innovation happens in New York. And it's been great to kind of pull back the curtain and show off everything that's happening, here in the frontier, in the middle of the country. Have you seen a lot of fintech companies, continue to grow and pop up in Pittsburgh? You hear Pittsburgh, usually, people think about AI and Google and autonomous driving. At least that's what's made the news.
Totally, yeah. It's funny you say that because our office is situated halfway between the big regional Google headquarters and the Duolingo headquarters. So, the big three kind of in a row in Pittsburgh there. A lot in machine learning and artificial intelligence, especially because there's so much great talent coming out of Carnegie Mellon. But Pittsburgh, similar to Cincinnati, is really a regional powerhouse in financial services. PNC, BNY Mellon, some really major players there. And I think we're starting to see some of those Fortune 500, some of those big corporates getting more innovative and wanting to collaborate with startups. And obviously we're seeing that here in Cincinnati, and I think we're also starting to see that in Pittsburgh, which creates a lot of fintech opportunities.
Terrific. Yeah, certainly an exciting year. Mark's back, so it sounds like you have news.
We have exciting news.
All right, so we'll wind it up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Thank you, George. Appreciate the time. Will, and of course, Jeffrey from the video. So, all right, the moment we've all been waiting for. The scores have been tallied. This is a very, very close competition. So we're thrilled to have the support of everyone who participated. We appreciate your pitches, but let's get to the winners. Coming in at third place, taking home $15,000 today, is Kitty Credit. Taking home second place prize today and $25,000 is Rent. And with the #1 point total, taking home the first place prize in our 2021 FinTech Frontier Pitch Competition, Nestor Solars from Sigo Seguros. Thank you, everyone, for participating, for tuning in. I'll wrap up quickly with 2 short comments. First, I want to thank Western Southern Financial Group, Fifth Third Bank, Jobs Ohio, and Centrifuge for helping us put this together and being founding partners of FinTech Frontier. Secondly, I want to reinforce the momentum our entire startup community is experiencing right now in Cincinnati. FinTech is an exciting part of that ecosystem, but it is only one part of our ecosystem. And we're incredibly enthusiastic about where we're going and what we're seeing across the entire community. If you're building a tech startup in Cincinnati and need support, please come find us at Union Hall. Knock on our doors. If you're not from here but want to join an ecosystem that supports one another, is incredibly talented, and celebrates mission as much as profits, then come visit. I think you'll find that you like what's here. Thank you for joining. If this left you feeling thirsty like it did me, we'll see you at Mad Tree Brewing afterwards. We invite you all to join. Otherwise, thank you for participating today. Thank you for tuning in. That's the show.